Getting my terminal set up here. Hold on a second. Learned some things about OBS last time, but now I've upgraded. All right, so if you read the show notes description about OBS problems, then you are aware that I am struggling a little bit with OBS. All right, first thing I'm gonna address is this. I would really like to not have to deal with this. And I found what you can do, since I have another monitor over here on the right, so I think that's your right, you can set this to the right, okay? And then it will either appear on the right of your lowermost screen or the right of your uppermost screen. Apparently in this case it's going to the right of my lowermost screen. I don't know how it decides where to go. But what I do know is I don't want it showing up randomly on my stream. Okay, and I tried, you may have seen on previous streams, I tried to set it up so that, so what I'm doing right now, you can't necessarily tell, that I'm switching between desktops on another monitor. And that has no impact on the stream, or it should at least have no impact on the stream. If I want this title bar to go away, and if I want that, I really could care less about the title bar. If I want that and the position on screen bottom thing here to not just show up randomly when I hit the bottom edge of my screen here, then I have to change a global setting for macOS. I'll see if I can find that setting so everyone can see it, because it's really buried in there and it doesn't say what it does exactly. I don't know if everyone has seen this or if it's just me. Here, I've got to clear up some space on my Mac. I think I almost have that much space now, but yeah, I'm not going to upgrade to the new macOS yet. But what I found was that you can change this setting. Where is it? Desktop and dock? That's where I would expect to find it. Stage Manager, maybe that has something to do with it. Arranges your recent windows. No, I don't think that has anything. Mission Control, here we go. Displays have separate spaces. That is the setting. Oh, you can't see it. It's behind my face. My big stupid face. Sorry. Displays have separate spaces. So how would anyone figure out if Google wasn't a thing? I guess there could be alt Google, but some way to figure out that the way to get this thing to not show up on this screen is actually to disable displays have separate spaces. And if I check this box, it's going to tell me, oh, you have to log out and log back in to make that setting effective. So these are the things we learn when we try to do streams. We don't know what we're doing. By the way, I don't know what I'm doing. This is my 11th stream in this series, but I've done a lot of streaming before that. Just never thought of creating a series before. I think my mic balance might be a little high. I'm going to turn it down. I don't know if that's good or not, but I'm pretty sure you don't want to see it go up into the red, right? When you're talking at your normal voice, it should go into the red. All right, that should be okay. Okay, so that's not the subject of today's stream, but it is one of the meta subjects, as we're getting better at streaming all the time. Streams here, so let's see. It does say we're live, that's good, okay. We're just gonna check on the stream. Okay, so that's not the subject. It sounds like my audio is okay. Here's our stream. And let's read the show notes, since I said you might read the show notes. Okay, so I upgraded to OBS 30.0. Not OBS 30.0, this is OBS release candidate, or beta. It's actually not a release candidate of 30.0 yet, but host all of my settings to do such a thing. So I couldn't start OBS anymore. And I didn't realize what happened because when I set it up initially, so there's a setting, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see what I'm doing because I have capture OBS off, I think. So wait a minute. Can you, oh, you can see OBS on the stream if I drag it on the screen. Okay. Here, let me move my stupid face over a little bit so you can see the whole window. Well, it's too bad. You'll have to look at this one. Okay, so that's where we're at now, potentially unstable release versions. And here's our screen capture properties. Hide OBS from capture, so you won't be able to see OBS anymore. What? It's gone. What? You can't see. Oh wait, that's just. All right, so yeah, I was going to show you. Something about the new OBS. I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't still have the same problems we've been having. I realize I'm very red because my background is red or orange. It's not a great situation here. It'd be less red. It'd be nice. What do we got? Is there something a little whiter? Oh, no, I want that on this one. There's Luna. Yeah, that's Luna. Okay, that's pretty good. Oh, I'm not as red. That's good. All right, cool. All right, and I did say I was going to move my stupid face over a little bit here. How do we do that? Like this? No? Come on. That looks pretty good. Okay. So what we've been having is the full stream freezes, but my face over here does not freeze. And I don't know why that happens, but I'm hoping it just goes away with OBS. So what we're going to do today, I have the monitor on the right and the monitor on the left. What you can't see is I have this one computer here that's a Mac that I usually do my streaming from, and I have this one computer down here that is a Linux/Windows machine, usually runs Linux, that is for something else. Probably a cluster or clusters. Actually, it's part of a cluster. So there's more computers over there, and I would move the camera, but I'm afraid I won't be able to get the frame back where it is right now. Well, why don't you just get to see this? Here, it's nice. Here we moved everything into this corner here. So now we've got our server rack. That's not really a server rack, but that's what we're going to call it. Okay. Yeah, so, but one of the servers is under the desk, and I would like to be able to turn that machine off and put it into Windows, or plug it into the monitor and use it as a desktop for streaming. And I thought I might have a way to do that, where you can set up OBS to stream to an arbitrary target, and then make that arbitrary target another machine on your network. So I would be able to have my desktop that we reboot that has, you know, various operating systems on it and lots of fun things that sometimes requires a reboot or sometimes crashes the whole system. I would be able to have that on a separate machine. So we could keep the stream going, so I could keep talking if I need to talk. Normally I try not to talk on this stream because it's a lot easier for me to just work and not talk. And I think people, well, I don't have viewers, so I don't really care if people care. If people like to watch the stream, it is for me to discover things on and then be able to go back and review them later in case I can't remember what I did, or I don't have time to write it down. There are lots of different scenarios where it might make sense to come back and look. And even if I just want to take clippings later, take clippings and use them in a show or use them in a presentation somewhere, that could be really handy. So all right, so we said we're going to do multi-machine stream. I'm not sure we're going to get there today. But we are going to do the tour of the multi-node, multi-cluster, virtual cluster, and virtual networks. I think we've done this tour before to varying degrees. And since we have multiple clusters and fluxes installed on all of them, Yeah, I was thinking I would really, set up like a scene today and make it nice so I could show what I want and transition between scenes, but I'm just going to drag windows around for another day. So I've got this great channel here that notifies me with Prometheus alerts whenever Prometheus alerts start and end, and also notifies me with Flux notifications, which are a different type of alert, whenever anything happens in general on the cluster. And then I also have KubeBot installed, which I have labeled here KubeSpam, but it's not. It's a little bit pejorative, but it's not really meant to be negative. It's very nice. I find the KubeSpam KubeBot helps me raise my situational awareness. It tells me about things that I wouldn't be watching for. Like this morning, I noticed that Nginx ingress controller on cluster 01 was going down and up, and I don't know why. At least I didn't know why. I had to log in to find out. But, actually I didn't have to log in so much because I guess we can describe things through the UI and see, we can see something happened 42 minutes ago. Well, it looks like it tried to upgrade or something. We don't have perfect integration. We don't have perfect visibility. So that's why we need notifications that come directly from Flux, since we're Flux users. Or we need notifications that come from Prometheus, because Prometheus is configured to watch for things that we would look out for. So like Prometheus is not configured to try to reach me when something is going wrong in Flux unless the Flux alert is installed. So I'll show you what that means real quick. So we have this monitoring branch where I track the monitoring manifests from Flux. Let's see, manifests monitoring. Okay, so let's stash our changes first. I don't know what that was. Pull rebase and sign my commits when I rebase them. Origin main. Hopefully we don't have too many conflicts. Wow, rebase on top of a lot of commits. Does everyone know what rebasing is? I sure hope so. Well, it looks like we have made a mistake here. I don't think that we wanted to rebase all those commits. Oh. I guess it's upstream. Origin is the one I can push to. Yeah. Oh, I know that there's a way to see what did you do? What was the last commit you were on before the rebase? Here we go. Moving to head. Commit test change. I believe that is the last commit was on origin monitoring, right? Oh, thank goodness. We can get back the commit that we had. What was this up here? This green thing comes all the way up to... We need more screen real estate. right, so we put a stash. Yeah, so that's what's really handy about a stash, is it saves you sometimes from needing the reflog, or reflog, as it is often called, by who I don't know. All right, toss that branch away. I think we want to check this out as a tracking branch, and we'll try that again with upstream main. Yeah. Great, we did get a conflict this time. Let's see. I have to remember which one of these is new. These kind of look... I think this is what's new, right? Monitoring, configure... No, I don't really know how to read. I don't know how to read this. All right, we're going to go to the source here. We're going to find out. Yeah, maybe you noticed last time the way we worked around the issue of the stream freezing was to maintain a separate share for each window, which was kind of clunky, so I hope that we don't have to go back to doing that. All right, so manifests. No, we don't want website, we want Flux2. Manifests, monitoring. Yeah, and what file is this? Monitoring config dashboards cluster. So I think that must be the new version then. Targets. Ready, deleted. All right, so I guess we don't want this old metric. GOTK resource info. Which was emitted by the controller. We want this new metric, GOTK reconcile condition, which is based on the cube state metrics. Okay, rebase. All right, we got all our changes back. All right, there's our rebase. I don't think we can reclaim our screen real estate now. We don't need quite so much all the time. Okay. That's useful. Yeah, so if you want your own monitoring setup now, you want to go here. Oh, I don't know if you could read that whole thing. How much of this was covered by my face? Probably not much. Hopefully not too much. All right, so this is the new monitoring stack. Not much different than the old monitoring stack. It's based on Cube Prometheus stack, which is Prometheus operator. All right, so we have a problem, and the problem is we don't configure notifications on every cluster. So how do we get multiple clusters from just a couple of computers here? We have V clusters. How can I illustrate V clusters? I think I really do need some kind of diagram for this. I think I got a nice diagramming tool not too long ago. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see if I can find the diagramming tool. I don't know what it was called. But it looks very bad right now. Here, freeform. I think that was it. No, I do not want to sync across whatever. Here we go. Yeah, we've used this before, but only a little bit. All right, new board. Okay, so we're going to do a little diagram as we do the exploration through our clusters. So I am going to need to move my face out of the way for this because it's going to be too much on the screen. Okay. So we'll make some room for our diagram and get that crap off my screen again. Okay. So we've got one big management cluster here. I'm going to draw a box for that management cluster. It's a big management cluster. It's got lots of stuff in it. We're going to see it takes up the whole screen. Okay. And that cluster here is called management. And that is the physical bare metal cluster that we are running all of our workloads on. So we can see it does not have very many nodes. It has lots of memory though. We upgraded the memory in all of these computers, so there's lots of memory, and it doesn't use all the CPU most of the time, so it's a good cluster. And we've got V clusters, not in this namespace, but we've got V clusters, which are configured using xkates.io cluster. So this is the cluster API, if you're not familiar with that. And this is the vCluster provider, the vCluster infrastructure provider for the cluster API. So if I run vCluster list, I can see the same view, and it looks across all namespaces because it's smart like that. And looks like these are measured in hours. Age, that's kind of interesting, not days. So we've got this management cluster, and it runs, let's talk about it here. What does it run? It runs another color. Let's see, we get some other color. How do you get color here? Oh man, I don't know what I'm doing. This is not a great tool to not know what you're doing in. Nope, draw lines, that's not what I wanted. Can we get like different colors or something? I know I had different colors before, man. Come on. Oh, that's a new note. That's not what I wanted. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Okay. All right, so the big cluster is going to be probably light gray. Let's see if we can get this a little lighter. All right, so we know we've got something going on, but it's not really obvious. And we're going to do another box in here to represent the Howard Moonboo cluster, which is probably going to take up, I think, this much space. And we got 3 more clusters in here that are each going to take up less space because they're each less important by a degree. And let's make sure there's some space between them. And they all line up nice. And they all line up nice, right? Okay, that's as good as it gets for now, I guess. So this is the management cluster. Make some room in here for more stuff. We're going to make a separate diagram for the Howard Moonboo cluster because he's got so much going on. But we'll wait a minute for that here. And of course, every time you do have a lot going on, you want, I guess he keeps his middle name in this case, Moonboo Staging, there. And over here we have Moo cluster, all right. And I see we missed one here. Howard Moonboo Staging, Howard Moonboo. All right, we did this diagram wrong. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Move this up here. Move this over here. There. All right, we got our Heavy workflow cluster. And stable things go here because any of these clusters could be killed and recreated at any time. And I don't want my blog to go down when I do that. So it's here on the Heavy workflow cluster. By go down at any time, I mean that I'm working on them. They're in active development. So we don't need to trust them necessarily because we don't know what their state will be at any given time. Whereas a Heavy staging cluster, if Heavy's down, I need to go into action. That something important is there. Let's see what we got there. Yeah, we've got our Deus workflow, we've got our blog, we've got some sites that we're hosting for other people, and we've got some tools based on those. So yeah, there's all sorts of important stuff on here. The docs for workflow. Let's see, is this actually working right now? All sorts of important stuff on here. All sorts of important stuff on here. Yeah, oh, here's our docs. Okay, so yeah, so these things are to stay online all the time. And we can take them down and set them back up, but only briefly. You don't want them to be down for very long. Whereas we're working on these things here. So these things can come and go, and there's a lot more of them. All right, so I just switched context here. That's what kubectx does to the Howard Moonboo Space Cluster. They're abbreviated here. They lose their middle names in the terminal because there's only so much room. And we want to see, yeah, so what we can see here is actually, remember this was a V cluster to begin with, but we actually have V clusters inside of it. We have our cluster API provider that hopefully is, I'm afraid it's down. It's not, this is kind of problematic. I'm not sure what happened here, but if I try to delete this cluster, which I have been doing periodically as a test. Kingdom CI Fleet Infra, I think that's where it is. Let's authenticate with GitHub. This is my favorite part. Where I pull out my phone and get distracted. All right, there we go. So what this should do is it should create us a pull request. I don't know what just happened there. Looks like it did not work. I don't know what's going on here. Well, let's try to create a cluster. So maybe that will work. Cluster template plus qblogin. All right, so this is, we need to make sure we created in the right namespace because I have pre-created some load balancers with the DNS. There's one called cluster02 in the default namespace. And we want our latest K3S version for now. Okay, preview. So it's going to create a GitOps cluster and a vCluster. And the vCluster has these configuration settings. And it's not going to use any profiles. And it's going to create this cluster spaces to put the RBAC roles on the cluster from our base configuration so that we can see what's happening on there. Now, assuming this all goes well, I'm actually going to download this in case it doesn't go well, because if all that's wrong is we can't create the pull request through this interface, then, well, that would be a bummer. But it looks like actually we can create. We just can't delete. I don't know why that is. So, that might be a clue. I'm going to make a note on the bug report that I sent about this. GitOps Enterprise. Okay. Sorry. I don't know how to search GitHub. I'm not a very good developer. Use the correct OIDs. No, that's not it. Leave GitOps Enterprise. Am I searching pull requests? Okay. All right, so something failed. We're going to investigate this. It says this is not valid, and I know why. We have projects, bootstrap, repo. And basic. There is no basic. So I think this is related to the magic here. Where is this magic? Yeah, this looks 2 directories up, and it looks in the basic directory. And that works in spite of the looks of things, because why does that work? I know there's a Git repository somewhere around here. Git repository definition. Or maybe it's in one of these. So I use this GitHub app secret app to create disposable tokens on my cluster. That is not a thing. Production. I don't know where this is configured. Here. Okay, so we've got a Git repository, GitHub app secret, and it takes from path apps GitHub app secret from Flux system here. That's what we were just looking at, which reaches into .. / /. So it's in deploy magic, so it reaches into above the default directory, above the magic directory, into the deploy directory to see what do we have in the deploy directory as our base. And this is probably not a great configuration because it breaks validation, but I'm not going to fix it right now. So let that be explained, at least. We're just going to merge this because that's not a problem, although it is a problem for validation. That's okay. And there's another problem. This is not the right repository. We actually didn't want to create this here. I'm not sure if I selected the wrong repository, but we'll try again. Since that hasn't been merged, it has no effect. So let's create a cluster again. Cluster 2 in the default namespace with, I'd like to have a newer version. Let's get the newer version. I think somewhere in here there's Flux IUAs. There we go. Flux image update automations. All right, so this is what we do for each K3S release, because we like to refer to Kubernetes versions by their minor, since patches come out all the time, right? And we'd like to get the latest patch whenever we're installing a new cluster. That's a step away, I guess, from actually upgrading clusters to the newest cluster automatically all the time. That would be a little bit YOLO. But all right, so we just defined a new policy for 128. Here's our image update automation. And there's our 128 file. Okay, so let's put that policy in place. And there's one more thing we have to do. We don't want that. We have to update the templates in CAPI templates, right? Let's look at our Bootstrap profile first here. We're using the latest Flux, I think that is the latest. 2.11. Yeah, that's the latest. Okay. And here's our Bootstrap Etsy GitOps value. I don't know what that is. Oh, Etsy GitOps. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, okay, so these are all on the latest. So these Bootstrap configs, each one lives in a directory. Oh, well, we have multiple Bootstrap configs in the vCluster directory. That looks like an error. CAPI GitOps. Oh, all right. So that's not in the vCluster. It's in this other namespace. Okay. So those are our Bootstrap templates. Those tell Flux what to do with the new cluster once it's created. But the template actually tells CAPI, or vCluster provider for CAPI, how to create the cluster. And the GitOps template joins those resources together in a way. So here's what we want. We want this to get updated automatically. Okay. And we've got that in a couple places here, so we're going to add another one here for that too. Okay. Latest CAPI vCluster minor 28. I'm going to rebase before I try to push. Well, let's just try to push here. See, no, it's not going to work. So what we're trying to do here, you see, it upgrades all the time for us. We get these commits whenever a new version of vCluster comes out. So we got these commits that came out on successive days. It looked like they started with the newest version and worked their way back. That's cool. So let's pull rebase. We don't need that. Yeah, and we can see from the conflict what it's doing. So let's take a look. Let's take a look. Oops. Yeah, so we see it did some upgrades, and that's why we didn't see that. So let's put this back and put that back. Do the same here. And we're probably going to have to rebase this a couple times because that's okay though. Oh. All right, so what we should see shortly after we push this commit and it gets reconciled is another commit gets pushed. It won't be right away because we don't have this instrumented with webhooks, but get image policy. Okay, so we should see pretty quickly 1.28 image policy popping up. And that 1.28 image policy is going to show us the latest image in the 1.28 series. And as soon as it comes along and says there is a latest image, it should trigger the image update automation to reconcile. So now we pull, we should see there's a commit. There it is. That's great. So there, now we know what the latest 128 version is. So that's what we're going to use. Okay, so you can imagine your infrastructure provider, your IT department does that part, and then this goes in the default namespace. Oh, why is it behind? That's not great. Oh, it hasn't been synced into the cluster yet. Okay. Let's make sure we've got that actually. Make sure you set up webhooks, man. This is way easier if you don't have to worry about notifying things that there's a change to sync. Source git fleet infra. All right, we should see that in the dropdown now. There it is. And we're going to create a PR in the right repository this time. I don't know how you tell it what repository is the right repository, but hopefully this just works. And there are no PR checks, so this one we can just merge. There's no validation failure to worry about. So there we go. So we'll see this cluster get created in a minute. And we can push things along a little bit if we'd like. Here we'll go to the Howard Moonboo space. This is kind of annoying. I can't just select the cluster here like any other cluster and see what's on it. I have to, here we're just going to go like that. Everything, sync everything on all the clusters. No problem. Okay, there's our new cluster. And that's our cube spam alerts telling us about things we might want to know. Let's see, cube spam. Okay, so the problem that we have to cope with is each alert distributor, or each alerter, requires some. Well, that's nice. It looks like our cluster came online, and it. Okay, so let's see. Wait a minute. This is why I don't narrate streams. All right, so we've got our cluster 02. It is not listening for some reason. Maybe Bootstrap hasn't succeeded, or maybe Bootstrap isn't. Let's see. Howard Moonboo cluster. Here's cluster 02. Run GitOps cluster. That looks like Bootstrap. Oh, all right. that was all we were waiting for. I think that was the first time I've actually captured it without a great delay that was unexplained. Cool. All right, I need to take a break. I need to take a break. But I don't know how to pause the stream, so this might just be the end of the stream for today. I haven't quite got there. All right, so what we were going to solve, well, I might just solve off stream, and then when we come back next time it will be solved, is we would like for this cluster to be deployed with alerts. So it doesn't just get the Flux system customization, it gets this cluster's basis customization. And I would like to include in the base configuration alerts. It should include a secret too, though. That's the complicated part, is there's a secret required to send the alerts out. And if we don't have the secret, then we can't send alerts. And if we don't have a way to get the secret into the cluster that's uniform, that is secure, then that will be a problem. So in recent history, I have suggested that you would use Vault to do this. And I still think that's a good idea. But I don't know if I can promote it anymore because a lot of my streams are all open source. I go on the CNCF streams, and when I speak on behalf of the CNCF, I can only show you open source. Obviously, this Weave GitOps Enterprise I'm showing you is not open source, but it has an open source arm. And this is not a CNCF stream, so it doesn't really matter right now. But I do need to be selective about the technologies I adopt because I may not be able to show them all in every context. And some contexts will only be friendly to open source software. So I don't know if we can use Vault for that. I don't know if there's a great second option. I don't know if we switch to a cloud provider solution like a HSM key thing, whatever they're called, HSM, then that wouldn't really be open source either. So I don't know if that's a better solution. I don't know if one day the lawyers will say that source available is okay enough for open source. I don't think that's coming anytime soon, but I never know. So, okay, so that's where we're at right now. It would be great if every cluster, as I brought it up this way, was pre-configured for alerts. And it should be configured in a way where we don't get duplicate alerts. Like I'm really just interested in having, like I showed earlier, we had this strange error coming from Nginx ingress controller, and it happened because it was upgraded. Helm releases are configured for upgrades if you set them with a wildcard, which I typically do because I don't need commit history to show me when Nginx was upgraded. I can go to the Nginx page and look to see when they had a release, when they published a new chart. And that will give me a good indication of when I upgraded because Flux is configured to do the upgrades for me automatically. But what I don't see is any upgrade history from the notifications from Flux, which I typically would see if notifications were configured on the cluster, on a per cluster basis. But as we're creating vClusters that may only live for a duration of hours, we have to make this really easy or they're not going to do it. And then they're going to have reduced situational awareness and other things will take longer. That's what we're talking about here. That's the value proposition. We don't want those other things to take longer. We don't know what they are unless we see the value provided by notifications, which should be just a easy drop-in config. There's not much to it. We should be able to configure that on a per everyone basis as long as people are creating their clusters this way through the gateway that we've provided that does all this setup for them. So I guess that's today's stream. Let's see, is there anything on the show notes that we didn't do that we said we were going to do? Probably lots. Yeah, so it's all about situational awareness. Do we need to copy a secret around, or are we going to generate the secrets on each cluster, or can we inject them in a way? I don't know how we'd inject them in a way that went around GitOps. I don't think we want to go around GitOps, but we can probably create a private key on the cluster as part of the bootstrap script, I guess. That might work. Or as long as we're pre-creating DNS for each load balancer and pre-creating load balancers, maybe we can pre-create the secrets and just populate them through a back channel. That way when we bring up a new cluster, we can just go off screen and put the secret in, and all the things that require secrets will come online. But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that yet. And I don't know how long it's going to take to find out, or if it's even going to be on the priority list by the time we speak again. So, toodles. Thanks for joining, and have a great day.